Cincinnati is looking for a bounce back season in 2025, and Scott Satterfield, I think, feels pretty good about where his team is at. We're going to take a look at this team and do a deep dive into the Cincinnati Bearcats to see what we should expect from this team this year. 5-7 season just isn't going to get the job done, and Scott Satterfield knows it. This coaching staff, this roster knows that. They know they came up short, and they are looking to bounce back this year. And when they get success on the field, you see an atmosphere that is unlike any other. Nippert Stadium is one of the most electric atmospheres in college football. And if this team is winning football games, that only makes them better. And we'll talk more why that is going to be a great combination and how that can help in 2025, help them win more football games. Because this is a team that I think can bounce back, and not a lot of people are talking about that. You do make quite a few changes. You see some players head off to the NFL. Xavier Henderson is definitely a big one to note. He is someone that is going to be really missed. And you do lose some players in the transfer portal. Tony Johnson is gone to Miami. You lose Jordan Robinson, Jordan Young. You lost some players that I think were going to be solid contributors for this team. But I also have to commend this coaching staff about not wasting any time and going out to find replacements. You do get Joe Cotton. I think that was a huge get for Cincinnati. That's a nice piece on the offensive line to be able to help give Brendan Sorsby plenty of time to throw. You also bring in Tawi Walker at running back from Wisconsin, and you brought in plenty of players that are going to play a role in the passing attack as well as the pass defense. We'll talk more about those guys here in a little bit, but this is a team, this is a roster that made sure that they were going to get better. They knew that last year wasn't going to get the job done, and I think that they can bounce back. I think they can have a better year this year than they did in 2024, and a lot of that is going to have to do with the success of Brendan Sorsby. Brendan Sorsby is a quarterback that I don't think a lot of people know necessarily, but he is definitely a familiar name within the Big 12. He's a solid quarterback that had a pretty good year, over 2,800 yards with 18 touchdowns through the air. He also ran for 447 yards and 9 more scores. I think those numbers will only improve in 2025. We've seen his ability to make big time plays. He's just going to have to do that with some new faces catching the balls for him. When you look at what Xavier Henderson did for this program, did for Brendan Sorsby, you're looking to find his replacement. Who's going to be that reliable player? We'll dive into the wide receivers and the tight end position because I feel like there are some intriguing pieces at those positions. It's just going to come down to which one of them or multiple of them are going to be able to help Sorsby out. But Sorsby is an incredibly talented player. There's a reason why they went out and got him, and he's been very fun to watch so far. But I think that there is plenty more that he can do for this offense. Brady Lichtenberg is still on the team. He's a guy that was committed to the Luke Fickell era, and he was able to stick around, and this staff obviously still wants to keep him here. Samaj Jones is another name to keep an eye on as the backup competition continues. Nobody's taking Sorsby's job. You're just looking to find who's going to be the depth behind him, who will be able to take over should they need to. They obviously don't want that to happen, but they might have to if something goes wrong. But right now, Brendan Sorsby is a solid player. He's going to have, I think, a better year, and that'll be fun to watch. You'll find an offense that did some good things, but they're looking to put more points on the scoreboard this year. They finished 89th in scoring, and they're not satisfied with that. They want to make sure that they are putting more points on the board and not relying on their defense to have to do so much. That's going to be a big key for this team this year, and it's a defense that also is looking to take a step forward. So if both sides are able to do that, you feel pretty confident of what this team can do in 2025. Running the football is going to be a priority once again, and you can see that because when you lose Corey Kiner, you weren't just satisfied keeping Evan Pryor. That's a nice piece to have back, but you go out and you get Tawi Walker from Wisconsin. This is a guy who ran for 864 yards and 10 touchdowns for the Badgers in 2024. He could have stayed with them. He honestly could have stayed. He could have gone to probably a number of programs, but he chose the Bearcats because he saw what this team can do. This is a team that wants to run the football. They want to be physical, and Walker and Pryor are going to give them a solid 1-2 punch. That's a tandem that I think is going to have a really fun year in 2025. That's also going to help Brendan Sorsby and that passing attack. Now, Walker averaged 4.5 yards per carry, Pryor had averaged 7.5. So maybe you'll see a little bit of the difference between those two, but it'll be fun regardless of who's touching the football, because you know that they're both playmakers, and giving them more touches and more opportunities, especially with an offensive line that I think is going to be really exciting this year. This could be a really fun rushing attack. You have pretty good depth behind those guys too. Manny Covey comes back after rushing 17 times for 62 yards. He also caught 8 passes for 169 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that's a nice weapon to have out of the backfield. Chance Williams is also returning after a 15 carry season for 67 yards. So those two, not as many carries, but you see glimpses of their ability. You see their potential, and it'll be fun to see how much they get utilized and what they do with those opportunities. There's plenty of guys that will be given opportunities in this backfield. Walker and Pryor are going to get probably most of the carries there, but you do have some interesting pieces that this offensive staff can utilize when they need to. And this is an offense that should be pretty balanced. The passing attack is in good hands with Sorsby, but he's going to have to find some new pass catchers. You lost Henderson, you lost Jamoy Mays, you lost quite a few pass catchers that will make replacing them difficult. That being said, you have some intriguing pieces that either show explosive opportunity or abilities, and guys that are looking for a fresh start. Cyrus Allen comes from Texas A&M. He caught 18 passes for the Aggies last year, but it was clear that he wasn't getting the opportunities that he wanted. He goes to Cincinnati, and he's hoping to be more of a part of this passing attack. And with 3 starting positions open, that's more than likely going to happen. Caleb Goody comes in from Colorado State, only 21 catches, but averaged 20.8 yards per catch and had 4 touchdowns. So that's a guy who's extremely explosive. Same thing with Jeff Caldwell coming from Lindenwood. 53 catches for 1,032 yards. That's nearly 20 yards per catch and 11 touchdowns. Now, making that transition from that level to Cincinnati to the Big 12 is the biggest concern with him. But you like his frame. You like what he could do at 6'5" and 215 pounds. I think that he is going to give teams something to think about. And if he's able to prove that he can handle the transition, this is an offense that should be electric through the air. I like this starting trio. I really am impressed with what they're capable of doing. It's just going to come down to, can they compete in the Big 12? Can they be a team that surprises people? Because I think a lot of people are doubting what this passing attack can do with so many new faces. But this is a trio of wide receivers that could do a lot of exciting things. Barry Jackson Jr. is a guy who could be part of that rotation as well. Only had 3 catches last season. You bring in Noah Jennings from Charleston Southern, 32 catches for 319 yards and 3 touchdowns. After that, you have a lot of younger players that are hoping to be part of the rotation, are hoping to be more contributors. And right now, there's plenty of competition. I think we're seeing a lot of these teams in the Big 12. There's not really much of a difference between them. So the more competition you have to make your guys better is going to elevate you, to help you win some of those close games. We saw this conference last year. It is pretty much wide open, and there is room for teams to surprise. You look at Arizona State and what they did. Now, I'm not saying Cincinnati is going to be the Arizona State, but there is room for them to make significant improvements in the win-loss column. If you're able to give Brandon Sorsby targets, we know that Sorsby can sling the rock. We know that he's capable of moving the ball down the field. It'll just come down to what the wide receivers can do. You also bring back tight end Joe Royer, a first-team All-Big 12 selection in 2024, 50 catches for 521 yards and 3 touchdowns. After him, there's not a ton of proven depth. Gavin Grover comes back. You get Patrick Gerd from Ohio State. Those are 2 guys that will have to prove that they can handle the reps that they get, but having Joe Royer back is another solid player and a good frame too. 6'5", 215 pounds. So Royer and Caldwell could be those big frames that Sorsby looks for if he's in trouble. And after that, it's just going to come down to who can create separation, who can make those explosive plays, and who puts this team in the best position to have success. Sorsby should have a lot of time to throw. I think that he is going to really like what he sees up front, as well as the rushing attack. You bring in Joe Cotton, a guy who played for a successful South Dakota team and has a ton of experience. 27 career starts, started all 14 games for South Dakota last year. 6'6", 317 pounds. Honestly, a little surprised that he chose Cincinnati over a number of other schools, but that's a nice get for them. That's a big win for them. DeAndre Buford, 6'4", 325 pounds, started 8 games for this team last year. So as you're seeing a lot of experience at the tackle positions. Behind them, you also have guys that have experience as well. So you're feeling pretty good about the tackle position if you're Cincinnati heading into the 2025 season. The guard position, you have a guy coming in from Ball State in Taron Tayo, 26 games of experience, 23 career starts, started 11 games for the Cardinals last year. The centerpiece, the leader of this group, is going to be Gavin Gerhardt, 6'4", 310 pounds, 36 career starts. This is a guy when I was covering the AAC for a while. This was a guy that kind of came in and was relatively unknown, and he has made a name for himself. He is the leader of this offensive line, and he will make sure that the new faces are up to speed. You also get at the left guard position, Evan Tingsdahl. He is someone who doesn't have any starts yet, but he's played it in 11 games in 2024. So you're hoping that he makes a seamless transition into his new role. The interior offensive line, in terms of depth, is maybe where you have more questions. Jake Wheelock is a redshirt freshman, as well as Zach Clark, who could play roles at the guard position. Grant Edgington only has 1 game. So those three, you'd like to see them obviously in game experience, get some of those reps in actually meaningful time. And that's going to be something that helps this team find success. If they have good depth at the offensive line positions, you feel pretty good about what they can do. And overall, I think it is going to be exciting. This is an exciting group, an exciting offensive line that should make some exciting plays and should give their quarterback and their skill position players plenty of time to move the ball down the field. And there are plenty of new faces. That will take some time for them to sort things out. Take some time to find that chemistry, and it might be a while before we see that. They will have to get things going right off the bat. We'll dive more into the schedule here a little bit, but the offense might have to do a little bit more work while the defense sorts some things out, especially on the back end. The defensive line, though, I'm really excited about this group, mostly because Dante Corleone is coming back, a first team all Big 12 selection. And when he is fully healthy and when there's no health scares, no health concerns, I really hope that all those things for his sake are sorted out and are over, because that was a scary situation for him. He is one of the best defensive tackles, nose guards, whatever you want to call these guys. He is one of the best in the entire country. A guy who has a ton of power in his frame, good size, 6'1", 335 pounds, and he is a disruptor. If he is on the field, you have to account for him. Teams know that it's going to be a long day when you face number 2. He is someone who has been a strength for this defense, and he is back for yet another season. That will make life easy for a guy like Jalen Hunt, who's coming back from an injury. They missed all last year. Marquez Parker is going to be another guy that could have a lot of success because Dante Corleone commands so much of that attention. You also bring in Jalen White from Old Dominion, 41 tackles for him, 3 tackles for loss, 1 sack. You'll also see guys like Kamari Burns and CJ McCray. Those two don't have a ton of production, but again, they are going to be part of this rotation. You like their skill sets, you like what they're capable of doing, and it could be a part of this as well. Again, Corleone is really good, but he's not going to be on the field every single play. So who will replace him? Kamari Burns could be that guy. Harris Adams is another one. And then also, what do the guys at defensive end do? Can Jalen Hunt and Marquez Parker do what they're able to do and step up for this team? Are they able to take over when teams are double or even triple teaming Dante Corleone? And do they make sure that this defense is being disruptive to help? Because up front, you feel pretty good. You feel pretty confident that the returning talent is set. You also look at guys like Mike Coleman, Rob Jackson. There appears to be good depth on the defensive line. You obviously have the star in Corleone. After that, it's going to come down to who are the guys that are able to help him out? Who are the guys around him that complement his game? Because he will command a lot of attention, and that opens the opportunities up to other guys to step up in his place or make plays when this defense truly needs it the most. Now, another thing that helps is having a group of linebackers that could be one of the best trios in the Big 12. These are three guys with a ton of experience, and last year we saw a ton of success. The other nice thing is that there's plenty of depth behind them. So Jack Dingle, Jonathan Thompson, Jake Golday, those are three guys that are set to have really successful years, and it'll be fun to see how they compete with the depth behind them. Dingle had 38 tackles last year, one pass defended. Jonathan Thompson, 49 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. Jake Golday, 58 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks. The depth behind them is also pretty solid. Brian Sims III is back, 17 tackles last year for him, 1 tackle for loss. Simeon Coleman, 32 tackles, 5 tackles for loss. And Monte Whedon, 15 tackles, 3 tackles for loss. So you have a good first unit and you have a good second unit that is ready to step up. Now, whether or not the talent drop off is there or not is probably the biggest question, or what that's going to look like. But the starters are in a good place. Golday was an honorable mention all Big 12 selection, and there are guys behind them that are ready to step in if asked. If called upon, they have a good group that is ready for their opportunities, and that's going to make life easy for everybody. It's going to make life easy. If the defensive line can't make a play, the linebackers can step up. Now, granted, Dante Corleone will make their life easy. He'll make their life a lot simpler by not having to take on as many blockers. There are going to be more openings. But if they need to, the linebackers are able to help out when needed. And again, there's good depth, so you don't have a ton of concerns about that unit, which makes things really exciting if you're a Cincinnati fan. And it also helps because you have a secondary that is going through a bit of a transition. And there have been a few years now where Cincinnati is trying to sort things out on the back end. And it might take some time for them to get acclimated with each other. You have a lot of new faces coming in. You do have some returning talent, but you do have plenty of new faces. Logan Wilson and Jaquan Sanks are going to be the two guys that are the returners in the starting lineup for now. There is plenty of competition. Logan Wilson, 20 tackles, 4 passes defended, 1 interception. Sanks had 42 tackles last year. They are very familiar with what this defense wants to do. Then you bring in the transfers. Opposite of Wilson, Matthew McDoom, I think, is going to be a really fun player to watch for the Bearcats defense. 36 tackles, 3 interceptions last year for Coastal Carolina. You bring in Tatum Barnes from New Mexico State, Xavier Williams from Middle Tennessee, and Christian Harrison from Tennessee. There's going to be plenty of competition at the safety positions. Matthew McDoom is also going to have to go against Armani Arnold. So that's not a position that's solidified, but I feel confident that McDoom is going to walk away with the starting job there. The thing that also means is that there's good depth. You feel that you have solid players that can push those starters for time. And if one of those starters goes down for whatever reason, you have a guy that's ready to step up and step into the lineup when called upon. That's going to be a big thing, especially for a team that's looking to bounce back. This is a team that struggled last year, and they are looking to find ways to get better in 2025. They have the talent there. They have the depth, especially on defense, even with some of the transitions going on and some of the secondary players being new to the system. You feel pretty good about the depth where you just have to sort out who's going to be the starters and who's going to push those guys for time. That's the biggest thing that this secondary has to figure out. So I think that's a good position to be in overall. I don't have a ton of concerns about what this secondary is capable of doing. When you look at what they did last year, really the defense just needs to take a step as a whole. But with the talent they have coming back, you feel confident that they should be able to make that happen. Some players need to step up. Some players need to take their game to another level. But you do have some of those returning pieces that you feel confident in. Those are kind of your pillars of that defense. And the rest of the guys need to do their role, need to play their part. That's going to help them win games. And this is a schedule that I think does give them plenty of opportunities to win games. There are plenty of coin toss games that when we go into win totals and making actual predictions, there are opportunities for Cincinnati. Cincinnati is a team that could surprise people. Now, at their ceiling, if the offense is playing really well, the quarterback position is in a good hands with the wide receivers, then you feel pretty good about their ability to move the ball down the field. If the defense is stifling and making teams struggle, this is also going to be a nice schedule for them to have. You start the year with Nebraska. Now, Nebraska is a team that everyone kind of expects to have a big year. If Cincinnati is able to find a way to stun them, that builds a ton of confidence for the rest of the season. You then get Bowling Green and Northwestern State. So if you do find a way to beat Nebraska, you're sitting at 3-0 before you head to Kansas. Kansas is a team that struggled last year. That's a game to kind of measure where both of these programs are at in 2025. Which team is going to have that bounce back year? You do get Iowa State at home, so that's a tough game, but it is in Nippert Stadium. So if you're 4-0 heading into that game, that atmosphere, like we talked earlier in the video, that's going to be electric. That's going to be super fun. And that's an opportunity for Cincinnati to stun a team once again. UCF and Oklahoma State should be near the bottom of the conference in 2025. So those are two games that you have a ton of confidence if you're a Cincinnati fan. The next two games are tough, though. You host Baylor, again, at Nippert. If you're having success, that game becomes really fun. A trip to Utah is going to be challenging for sure. Utah is looking to bounce back as well. And once again, another game where we get to see, is Cincinnati truly on track to have the successful year, or is this going to be a long day for them? Then you get a bye week before you go Arizona, BYU, and TCU. And the more you look at this roster, more you look at this depth chart, there's an opportunity for them to win all three of those games. It's not going to be easy. BYU is not the team that we thought they were heading into the offseason, but they also are going to be really tough. Losing your starting quarterback makes your team very different. But at the same time, it's still BYU. The nice thing is that, once again, it is at home. So you have a lot of your tougher opponents coming to Nippert Stadium. And if this is a team that is much better than expected, those games aren't necessarily easier, but the challenge lessens because you're playing in front of your fans. The trip to TCU to end the year will be a tough one. But when you look at it, I do think that this is a team that, if things are going right, could go 9-3. That being said, you could see another 5-7 season. If the passing attack doesn't get off the ground, if the pass defense struggles, if the defense in general struggles again, this is a team that might struggle to find wins. Now, that's probably the most unlikely scenario that plays out. 5-7 is the most unlikely to me. I think they do make a bowl game. The over-under is at 6.5. Most of the channel believes that they are going to be somewhere in the middle of the pack of the Big 12. So that's a really exciting season, especially after last year. This is a team that's looking to bounce back. And if they're able to find those pieces to step in and get into the lineup and produce, you're going to look at a team that's having a lot of fun in 2025.